Welcome, everyone, to our booth coordinator wrap-up session tonight. I am Latoya. If you're not aware who I am, tonight I have with me Gail, and I also have Ann from ABC Baker. Okay, so tonight we're going to focus on the 2025 Cookie Program booth results snapshot. We're going to have a snapshot discussion. We'll discuss some feedback topics, and if you have any additional questions or comments, we will discuss that. All right, for tonight's wrap up, we're going to focus on again what worked well and what do you think that the cookie team can do to improve for next year. Our booth results snapshot. I'm not going to go through everything, but one thing that I do like to outline is the 10,140 unreserved time slots that we actually have in Smart Cookies. We'll talk more about that later in the next slides. And the other thing is the Smart Booth Divider. There were an average of 35 packages per hour sold. Okay, so one of the things that we want to discuss tonight is why there were so many unfilled booth time slots, which equated to 10,140 time slots. So if anybody wants to unmute, um, have any feedback, can give us a suggestion why they think there were so many, you know, unfilled time slots. One of the things that I have issues with this cookie season was seeing a lot of booths, council booths, that were not filled as well. We'll talk about that later in a slide too, but does anyone have any feedback or any reasons why, like maybe their troop wasn't filling booth slots or
Yeah, we're kind of trying to look
anyone?
for feedback from you to understand why we end up with so many empty booths. There's always going to be some, maybe it's a time frame or the weather ends up bad and they pull the troop out of the booth or something to that effect. But that seems like such a huge number of time slots that aren't being taken advantage of.
When you say council booths, you mean the ones that council set up, like the Walmarts and the ShopRites and whatnot?
Yeah,
Right.
that's one part of it, but in total, not all of the unfilled booths were council booth. There
Right.
are other booths that were actually put in by the service. It could be local to, service unit areas. Um,
I was wondering because, we are fortunate to have two Walmarts in our area.
mhm.
One of the Walmarts, um, no matter how many times I went in to talk to the manager, I emailed, I copied the product team because I guess she was a new manager and she kept telling me I had to go to corporate through her person because she refused to come out and talk to me. I don't know, maybe I scared her. Um, and I even sent her a copy of the contract to show that we had already covered that portion. And I still got no contact. And I went back a couple more times to try to visit. And it came to a point where I just had to say, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So would that be part of those 10,000?
No, those slots are actually booths that were actually put into Smart Cookies, but then not
Correct.
utilized, or
Okay.
time slots that aren't utilized. So,
Okay,
Latoya,
remember you talking
but
about
hello.
that Walmart.
Oh,
Audra, I understand exactly what you're talking about with Walmart. We had a couple of issues with that where, you know, volunteers would go in, the manager would tell them, no, we don't think. It's really up to Walmart. Walmart makes a decision if they want to have booths or not. We try to get, like on my end, I will try to enforce it and try to get in contact with them. It is difficult sometimes trying to get in contact with Walmart because they do not answer their phone. And that is the only way that we can actually get in contact with them. So I am aware of Walmart and, trying to. And I know it is frustrating for the ones that can't get it, but I do apologize. It's something that we are aware of. I have provided feedback, and so hopefully things will get better. It was supposed to get better this year, but maybe they'll work on it. It'll get better next year.
Well, 'cause I was hoping since we'd have two of them and people, they use the first 3 weeks like complete fill in, but then as they start to phase out, I was hoping I could just put them in and open them up to anybody else that was willing to
Yeah.
drive out there. But they could not, and they kept saying, "Oh, we have to go to corporate." I'm like, we did. We just need you to say yay, put it in the system. So I wasn't sure if there was something, maybe if you guys could nudge corporate to say, "Hey, can you tell them that that you guys signed the contract? Can you, I don't know."
Yeah. And part of that also too is that Walmart have multiple managers on duty. And so maybe there's one that is aware of it, but the others are not. And that's an issue also too, because they do not relay it to the other ones. So one may approve it, but if there's another manager that's on duty that has no idea anything about it, it takes, they don't know. So that's probably what's happening when someone comes in and approaches them. They don't know anything about the contract
this was
because they're not aware.
the head manager.
Correct. And
So
even though Walmart promised us that they had worked on that and everyone is aware, that doesn't seem to be the case. Yeah.
Hello.
Latoya?
Hello.
Yes.
This
Hi.
is Florence.
Go ahead,
Hi,
Florence.
Florence.
Hi. The way I do it, maybe I shouldn't do it this way. In the beginning, when you set up all the booths, I set up all the booths, even for, let me give you an example. We have a baseball field. I set that up in 2-hour slots and I just throw them all out there. And then I let the troops know what's out there. And then they tell me what they want. And whatever they don't want, it's still out there, but I don't delete them. And it's not a very good location. I'm just using that one as an example. The majority of my troops only sold like maybe 20 boxes. And we had one troop that went there and they only sold 6. So after a while, with the feedback, they didn't go, but I didn't go out and delete them because we didn't have a lot of booths. So if somebody still needed something, I still left it out there because, we only have Walmart as a good location. The other locations we have in our town aren't really good locations. We do the best we can with those locations. We have a diner that lets us, which you can only have 2 girls in there and you could only do it on Saturday and only for one time slot. So it's a little difficult for us. If we had more larger locations like a ShopRite or something like that, then I wouldn't need to do that. So I'm sure some of your numbers were our little locations that I threw out there that we didn't use. And then my other comment is the booths that you provided. For example, I can't think of the name of the location in North Brunswick.
North Brunswick. That's
you know,
not
your,
the girl
your
experience.
location, huh?
Is that the girl
The
experience
lab,
center?
the lab, Dream Lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that's like 5 o'clock is not going to work. And so it was like a last minute thing. I was trying to get troops to see if their parents could get off for work to get there because they wanted the slot and they tried to get there. That's why there was a last minute response to you when we could use certain locations that you gave us. Our parents did try to get there, but if they're too early, we can't manage that. They can't leave work to man those slots. The earliest they can get there is like 6:30. Or, you know what I mean? Some of them got there at 6. So that was one suggestion that might be helpful for you.
Okay, so with council filled booths, they are on a rotation. So we kind of switch it up every year. We move service units around so they don't have the same week every year. But also we started at 5 o'clock. So if you're suggesting that 5 o'clock is too early, then maybe we need to take a look at making the booths at council, like as far as the Dream Lab, a little bit later.
Well, you could ask the other service units. I'm just saying for us, it wasn't going to work. We couldn't get from Sayreville to North Brunswick with parents getting off of work at 5 o'clock. We couldn't make it.
And I'm
Okay.
sure,
So
yeah, and
I'm
I'm
making
sure
a
that,
note actually for you, for your service unit, that a later time would be better.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
and I'm sure,
And
that is probably a factor in some of the empty booths is timing
Yes.
and things like that. But it's
And
still,
weather. Don't
I
forget, and
wanted
the
and
weather.
weather.
I wanted to
Weather.
piggyback off of what Florence was saying. We are Chemung. We're a
Mhm.
very small town. We have three major stores, not major. We have two restaurants. No, we have a law firm that lets us come over. That is a drive-through that's across the street from the Wawa because Wawa won't even let us at their location. And then we have a restaurant that really we only do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for, and it's you get about the max is about 80 boxes for two girls. And you're outside. And then we finally got a third location, which was at like a paintball place, but that's not good in the wintertime apparently, because a lot of people don't go there in the wintertime. So I left slots open just like Florence did, just in case people needed a spot. But
Mhm.
after the first couple of weekends, people just were like, I can walk the streets and sell more cookies, unfortunately. So we don't have a lot of locations.
So I'm curious, do you know if, like, as the sale goes on, if your troops look to see if there are open slots in other service unit locations, like as they get opened up and try
So
and take
I
advantage of
don't
those?
think that we've, I don't believe that we were even aware of that because in the past we were told that if we wanted to go to a different location, specifically with like Medford, because they have ShopRite that they at least have, that we'd have to give them some of our booths in order to then use their
So,
booths.
well,
And
right.
um, we don't really have any booths to begin with.
That's interesting you say that because I actually had someone reach out to me regarding the Cherry Hill Mall. They kind of wanted to do a swap. Like if we give, let them use it, they have to let us. So that's kind of interesting that you say that because I did not know that's kind of what it's kind of maybe, and that could explain why a lot of people are not looking into smart cookies to see that there are,
Right.
unfilled booths because of that.
And this is
That's
my
a good
first
point.
year, so I
Okay.
am not the cookie booth coordinator either. My service unit coordinator is a cookie booth coordinator, so she handles that piece of it.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, maybe that's something that we need to,
Yeah.
reinforce next year. Like, I get where people are saying, we don't want to give up our good booths unless we can get some other booths elsewhere. But what we always ask everybody to do is if your booths aren't full and you know that troops aren't available, aren't taking the slots, whatever the reason is, at that point to then open them up to
Yep.
anybody. And that's just a change in the setting in Smart Cookies under the booth.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was kind of, getting at is there are times when someone knows, oh, we just can't use all those Dream Lab slots for whatever reason. They're too early, we're not available. And if you change the setting, then other service units, other troops from other service units can see that and can take them.
Yeah,
So,
no, we did not have that. We have a whole separate list for our girls to pick from, and that was never brought to anyone's attention.
okay, so that's good to know that we need to talk
Yeah.
about that more next year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Make sure
I just
everybody's
want to
aware.
add, I wanted to add, this is Crystal, I'm from Mount Laurel, and we are fortunate. We do have ShopRites, Walmarts. We're pretty big. Now, I know I hold a lot of titles. I'm a cookie manager and cookie booth coordinator. It's just crazy. I know when I put stuff in personally, because I don't have a lot of time, a lot of times I just auto select all the dates and then I say to myself, I'm going to go back and delete the ones that I know that I shouldn't have put in. And sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't. So that could be reasons why that it is just people are just quickly running through, uploading these booths. And trust me, Gail knows when occasionally I'll get people on booths from troops I've never heard of. And I'm like, I don't even know why they're even in there. And I don't know who they are. And I mean, and I have people who have reached out to me in smaller areas to say, hey, is it possible we could? And I'm like, sure, no problem. I've never once asked somebody else if to go outside in their area. I never thought to even do that. And then we share areas for owners at a particular pet store. The girl lives in Cherry Hill or whatever, but they own a store in Mount Laurel. Fine. The little girl sells right next to ShopRite. So that we just disperse the flow of traffic. And she does it on days normally when our girls aren't there. So we do try our best to work together, but I can honestly say for Mount Laurel, at least if there are a little bit of an excess of booths, that's on me. Because again, I just don't remember to delete stuff
Yeah,
until it
and it
comes
may
back to my
be that,
attention.
and it may be that there's, those few excess that you have and a few excess that someone else has in a similar situation. And on top of that, booths that just didn't get filled for whatever reason. So it all adds up. But 10,000 time slots is even
Well,
if it
Yes.
that's
was
a lot.
half of
That's
that,
a lot.
even if
That's
it
a
was
lot.
half of that, that's a lot of opportunity that perhaps isn't being taken advantage of. And like we said, some of those locations you're going to sell a lot and some aren't as successful. And that's the tough part of it, unfortunately. I wish every location was a big hit for sales, but they're not. But a lot of them are. So, and we just want to make sure that that people are taking advantage and talking it through to help us understand what we can do next year, maybe to help troops. We have troops always every year with leftover cookies, and maybe helping them towards the end of the sale to find a booth that maybe it's 20 minutes or a half hour away, but they can get the girls there and sell some of those leftover cookies towards the end of the sale. So
Yeah.
so we're trying to look for ways that we can
Right.
help too.
Yeah. Does anyone have any suggestions how we can help to upload some of the booths?
I have a question for the booth uploads.
Hmm.
We only put our booths, upload them as they're filled by troops. But when I've uploaded the booths, sometimes they're kicked back. I end up having to put, with the occasional one here or there in manually. But when a troop says, "Oh, I can't do that one after all," it would be helpful if I could go into Smart Cookies, take that troop out, and put another troop in. But usually, what I end up having to do is not only delete the troop, but delete the booth, and then do another upload with the new troop. Because I've tried, or even if I just try, because if you go into edit, it will only let you edit the time, but not the troop.
Audra, there is a way, and off the top of my head, I can't walk you through it, but to take a troop out as long as it's within your service unit. Hey, Anne, are you
Yeah.
able to just speak to
Yes,
that?
there is a way to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you would just go in and you would just go to booths, troop reservation, pull up that troop's reservations, cancel out the first troop, and then go back in and do the new troop and schedule schedule booth reservation for the new troop. I mean, you don't use an edit under manage booths. You go through reservations that way.
Okay.
I'm just making a note of that so we can include it next year.
Yeah.
Because I always thought it was odd that there was no way to do that, and I'm like, that just seems odd. And then I don't know if this would count against that 10,000, doesn't make up for it, but I had some troops that all of a sudden they decided, oh, we didn't use that booth because it rained, and all of a sudden they canceled their booth. And I'm like, that was 2 weeks ago. You don't need to cancel it after the fact. And it's not 10,000, but it would add to that number.
Yeah, it all adds up. And like I said, there's not one reason why there's 10,000 empty slots, obviously.
Right.
Well,
I
that
just
gives us-
wanted,
Go ahead,
hi,
Lauren.
sorry. Audra, I wanted to say that a lot of times my troops, if they aren't gonna, they're gonna cancel a booth, they'll cancel it themselves. And then they'll put in our Facebook group that they let that booth go if somebody else wants to pick it up. I don't know if that's something that you guys do or would think about doing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I do know that with the rain or the cold weather, I mean, there's been times I've been at a Walmart and I'm like, why is there nobody on that other door? And I look up and I'm like, why are these people just not showing up? And I get irritated because it's like, put a lot of effort in to track the schedule, track the, get everything put up, and they don't even show up. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you're the one that's going to end up with extra cookies at the end. And that's a good point to make sure that they go in and cancel themselves and then let somebody else know.
Yeah, and that's definitely important too. Aside from having empty slots, is having empty booths that look like they're filled, but they're not when you actually, that the troop doesn't show up. Again, weather, illness, things happen, but if the troop pulls themselves out, then it does give another troop an opportunity. So, all right,
Right.
should we move on?
So, has anyone used the Smart Booth Divider this year?
I always use a smart booth divider. It's so much easier.
I agree.
Because we're just trying to find out why we don't have more troops kind of using it. So, any suggestions? The ones that are not using it, is there a reason why you're not using the Smart Booth Divider?
What's its purpose? I don't know. I haven't needed to use it, so that's why I don't know why I didn't use it.
Well, I think one of the reasons, this is Anne from ABC. I mean, there's a couple of reasons that the Smart Booth Divider is very helpful. One, it makes it way faster to, allocate those cookies out to the girls. You don't have to do individual transfers to girls of booth cookies. And secondly, it helps the council to build a database, just like they're talking today on how many cookies, were sold at a particular location. It starts to build a real history. I mean, I've been in this cookie business a really, really long time. Don't even want to say how many years. And when I worked at a council, it was all anecdotal. Oh, yes, if we go to Walmart, we're going to sell, we think we sell about 50 packages an hour. By entering it in the Smart Booth Divider, you get not only how many packages were actually sold at a given location, but you get variety, because there are variations around communities, right? One community might be, they love peanut butter sandwich more than they love peanut butter patties. And it really helps the troops could then go in and look at archival data and see, okay, this location's pretty good. They sell, 50 packages, and this is the mix. So I think there's a real value to the Smart Booth Divider.
I'm sorry, this is Florence. I had walked away and I just came back. You're talking about the column in Smart Cookies that says booth? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about using the Smart Booth Divider as opposed to using the column that is the booth packages in the transfer to girls.
So when you go, after you sell at a booth, then you go back to that booth and it lists all the sales, and you can actually use that line to then divide the cookies up amongst the girls.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had walked away and came back. Okay.
Nope.
I know what you're talking about. I just didn't know what you were talking about.
So again, that's something that I guess we need to look into to make sure that the troops are getting all that information, especially newer troops, that they know how to use it. Because like Anne said, that it's a great resource for data, as well as making it easier for the troops when they're done at a cookie booth.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so we'd like to get some information on the booth trainings and what resources we can help you with. So, what do you think worked well this year with the booths and booth trainings?
We did the cookie booth coordinator training back in August. And we just kind of wanted to get your feedback on how that went and what you think maybe we need to add to it or how change it up in a different way.
I didn't really have an issue with it. I've been doing this for so long that I just didn't, it was fine. So I didn't really have any issues. I'm not one to really, comment on it. It was fine for me.
Thank you, Florence.
Okay. Anyone else?
Same with me. This is probably, gosh, my 8th year doing it. And it's actually my last year because my daughter graduates this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that's good. I made a couple notes of some of the things we already talked about that are things that can be included in training for next year as well.
Yeah. Is there anything that we can improve on for our trainings next year? Or what additional
even not
training?
even at the training, but are there other things that you think we should be maybe refreshing, reminding, pointing out, whatever you want to call it, throughout the season?
The connection between Smart Cookies and digital app with the booths. that's still a little tricky for us, for me
Okay.
anyway, because I don't have a child, so it's very difficult for me to look at that. And when somebody's at a booth sale, because I don't really go to the booth sales, I have lots of parents and my sister does all that. But if they have any questions or comments with that and they're using the digital app, I can't help them and go into the, you know what I mean? It's very difficult. There's still a disconnect with digital app and smart cookies and questions that they have and what they see versus what I see. So that's still something that I think we really need to like fine tune and work on.
And that's, we talked a little bit about that yesterday, the
Yeah.
finding a way to give access to digital cookie to people who, you know, are just in a service unit role and don't have a troop role in the system. So
Yes, would appreciate that.
yeah, we'll work on that. I have to try and come up with a solution to that.
Is there any other resources that we can provide?
I mean, overall, I think it's always been very positive in my opinion. But again, I've been doing it now for about 6, 7, I don't even know how many years. So a lot of it is just almost second nature to me personally. But I think for someone who is brand new, I think the before training is good. The documentation you send out is good. And I mean, basically, it's really when you're finding your own booths, you have to do the legwork in your town specifically. Now, when it comes to the council booths, that's another scenario. A lot of it's out of our hands. And yes, the frustration with Walmarts or wherever else you have a council booths, excuse me. But I mean, personally, my opinion overall, I think the booth training and the resources that we have on booths specifically, not any apps or anything, is well communicated and well documented, just my opinion.
We just take all of you who are lots of years of experience and let you guys do the training next year.
Right.
But I will say, however, yesterday I was on the Cookie Manager. We had 22 people. There's only 11 people on this
Yes.
call, and now the 11, 4 are 2 are council and 1's ABC. So there you go. So that's something that maybe you need to, I don't want to say strong arm, but make it mandatory for the people who are either brand new, returning,
Absolutely.
because how many cookie booth coordinators do you actually have? You know what I'm saying?
More than
Right.
this.
Yeah.
And I realize, not everybody's available and,
Yes.
obviously, but we do have a very small group tonight.
I would suggest the documentation you guys have is phenomenal, but I had looked at the documentation for how to upload it because it had been a year and it's only the second time I've done this, second year as far as cookie booth coordinator. And having experience uploading things into different programs, there's always that, one little tweak that one thing going wrong can fail at every import. But one of the documents said that if you're trying to put it for just your service unit, you put I think it was an S or something on the beginning of one of the columns, and that didn't work. I took that out, so I don't know if that just needs to be updated because something got changed. Maybe just to kind of review it, fine tune it.
The booth upload template, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that.
And you wanted to reserve it for your service unit?
Right. Just for at least for the,
Yeah,
initial onset.
That S is still a requirement, but one of the things you have to be very careful about is Smart Cookies is very literal. And so, for instance, you can't put a space after that S, right? It has to be S. And so let's say your service unit is in Smart Cookies as SU 101. It has to be SS or SSU 101 with no spaces. So no space after the S, and then your service unit has to match exactly what says in Smart Cookies. And a lot of times it'll get kicked back out because in Smart Cookies it's SU 10, SU space 101, and you put in the template SU 101 with no space. I mean, it literally is that, that precise. So, but that
So
S is a requirement still, but I think a lot I do see that they get a kickback because you put S space SU 101. Yeah,
I had no space, but it said service unit name, so I put it in Echo Woods. So maybe I just needed to put
no,
the
you have
SS.
to put exactly how it's listed in Smart Cookies.
Okay.
Thank you, Ann.
Maybe it's a good idea in the training, though, to go over, for example, the larger locations. I mean, I wouldn't offer a field to other service units, then maybe we should go over in Smart Cookies, when you're entering them just for your service unit, you do it one way. But then if there are open slots that you want to offer out, we need to say specifically how they go back in and do that. Maybe that would be helpful. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah, it certainly is something to think about and explain.
And then maybe there's a way to communicate that you do have open booths. I don't know what the mechanism would be to do that. So for example, if, for example, we're close to East Brunswick and Old Bridge and in Old Bridge. So maybe there's some kind of way that we could communicate with service units that are close to you.
Mhm.
Maybe we should set up something, we should meet with those service units. So you should look to see geographically who's close, because you don't want somebody driving an hour away to go to a cookie booth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So maybe there's some way you can assist us in saying which places are close and how we could communicate, because just like Crystal said, there's not a lot of us on this call. So they're not hearing the discussion. They're going to see the slides, but they're not going to hear the discussion. And that's part of the issue, I think.
Definitely. I think that definitely opening up communication between service units and encouraging that more. And, I'm sure some of you know each other because you're near each other and you've been around a long time, but there's a lot of people that don't know anybody outside of their bubble.
And we did communicate that through Rallyhood one time this cookie season, but I think it was right at the beginning. So I don't think, maybe if we kind of did that like multiple times to remind people, that might be a better solution also too.
Okay.
Yeah, write that down.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, so were there any cookie booth issues? Like, what was your primary challenges? I know from on the call here, there were not many locations for some of you, but were there anything else besides that?
It got a little complicated with the trucks that were canceled and the cookies that weren't available, as I stated yesterday. I'm just saying it again because it's another group. But that was a little challenging for the booths, because towards the end, there was an issue with us not having the Thin Mints. So it was very difficult to sell the other cookies. So that was challenging this year as opposed to what was challenging last year. But this year, that was an issue.
Okay, thanks, Florence.
Sure.
I wouldn't say this was an actual cookie booth issue, but I know we discussed it a little bit last night. I did have one incident, or actually two, in regarding the horrible rumors about the cookies. And, one parent came to me. I mean, I couldn't believe an adult made a child cry about it. For what reason? I mean, obviously we can't control people. But again, if there's a way that let's say next year we find out, the cookies are made by three-legged cats and it gets out. We just need to figure out a way to protect or get that out to everybody so we could be prepared for it. I mean, it breaks my heart to hear something like that actual adults are coming at little girls who have no clue on what's going on at all. They're just there to sell a cookie. And that's it.
And that's a shame too. I mean, if they want to question the adults that are there and maybe look for information that, I get that they hear these stories in the news and I want to understand what's going on or think, but to go after the girls is not okay.
No.
But, and I know Angela touched on it last night a little bit that, we need to rely on GSUSA to provide us the talking points, because it's a lawsuit against them or information that they need to provide to all councils. And so, we've shared what we've been given. Hopefully by next cookie season, well, there's always some new challenge about something. Unfortunately. And, obviously social media gets it out there and makes it that much worse. But yeah, I totally understand that you need a way to talk to someone. Talking to someone like that who's not being reasonable is a lot harder no matter what.
And nowadays, honestly, it's the safety because then you have the parent that's going to escalate it because they made their child cry, and then you can't
Right.
control what's going to happen, and then it
No,
becomes even a larger situation unnecessarily. So that's just the thing, and
absolutely.
I think it more now is a safety reason because I hate to say it, in today's climate, people are just on 11 for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It
is, but no, I mean, we do hear you and we understand that. We just have to make sure that we're sharing the correct information so that you're sharing the correct information.
I have a question about booth territory limits. We have a diner that has been it's been Deptford in our service unit for as long as I've been doing this, and that's 8 or 10 years. And it's within the Deptford in our area, if you were to look on a map. But I had an adult from the neighboring township, Washington Township, come over, and my daughter and I had just set up our troops booth, and she had a minivan full of cookies, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I've set this location with the owners or the managers.
Sure.
And I guess she knows them because she eats there all the time. And she's like, "But we're on their inside schedule." I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry, but this booth is up in Smart Cookies." I showed her Smart Cookies. I don't know, I can't find her contact information. She said she was the cookie booth coordinator, but when I checked her name to the list when I got home, she wasn't on that list. She didn't even know what the service unit, because she just kept telling me her troop number. I'm like, "Not your troop, your service unit." And it just felt odd, and I never really followed up because I was just kind of dealing with so many other things at that time. But I don't know. It just every time, whether it was my troop, because my co-leader was there when it happened, so she recognized the lady. Every time after that, whether because she would go there to eat with her family and friends, and she would give dirty looks. The girls are giving dirty looks. And I'm like, this is not what Girl Scouts is supposed to be. This is not what we're promoting. My girls, because they're 8th grade, they're kind of having attitude. So they're like, thinking like, what? What are you going to do? We're here. But it's just any other troop, because I had one other troop that was like, we had these people that kept making comments and they kept, giving us dirty looks. We felt very uncomfortable. Our young girls were uncomfortable. And I just didn't know. And I'm like, and it was just towards the end of the season. And I'm like, okay, but I don't know. Is that the list that was out online? Is that a current list?
It was the current list of, for the current year of booth
Okay.
coordinators. But if she didn't even know what service unit she was from,
I was about to
probably
say
didn't
that.
understand what a cookie booth coordinator was. And she's
Right.
probably the cookie
Because she was like,
manager for the
upload, put it in
troop.
Spark Cookies. I'm like, I uploaded this into, because this is our location. This is not a council location. I put this in, and you can see that it's there because I can try to do a sale. I don't know what to tell you, but this is our area, and we're not giving it up. It's actually my
No.
trip's favorite
I
location.
think, in a situation like that, it's tough. I mean, trying to explain to her that this is not the territory that her troops, if she's, it's not part of her service unit. And if she were to want to set something up because she owns the place, knows the place, whatever it might be, that she would have had to talk to her service unit cookie booth coordinator before she just assumes that she can do a booth there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that's what we do request, is that if they have, even if they own a business in the town, we do say, hey, just let the service unit know that you want to do a booth there so that there isn't a conflict. But that message doesn't get out to everybody. And obviously we can't intervene on everything, but if there's ever a time when you need us just to help explain something to someone,
We can
Yeah,
definitely
because
do that.
I've emailed other counterparts, and I've had people email me and like, hey, good luck, no problem, let's go. The important thing is just the girls get out there and do their thing. But I felt very irritated that she just kept giving everybody dirty looks. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had my own booths to do, I would have been there being like, no, this is not right. And if you can't behave,
Right.
maybe you need to just
Right.
stop selling. But I didn't want to, I don't know. I just was not in the right headspace to confront her because, I
You
said,
shouldn't
well,
really have to. I mean, you should be able to explain it to her, but obviously she wasn't getting it. She wasn't
Listening, yeah.
understanding.
yeah, okay. I just
And
wasn't
it's
sure,
tough.
you know,
And people, but
I'll
I'd be curious just to know, if the diner gave you guys permission, which obviously they did, why they also told someone else they could have a booth there.
they probably figured it was the same. Well, yeah, but we already said, you guys can be out there,
Maybe,
not knowing that
right,
they're,
that's
because the
true.
business owners don't know one troop from another or one service unit from another.
No,
But they
that's true.
shouldn't have to get involved in that.
No, they shouldn't, but, so.
Okay.
Okay. So we pretty much talked about, why some of the time slots are not filled, but is there any more suggestions, like, how we can get? And I know we're going to talk about sharing things, communicating more. Any other suggestions or feedback? Okay, we'll just move along. All right, so booth communication, how can we better communicate booth-related news? So usually when there's anything that has to do with a new council booth, I usually email, the booth coordinator to let them know exactly we got a new booth and, here's the schedule. Is there any other way that you would like to have that information? Or not even just with council, but with any booth, like anything? Is there another way besides email you would prefer?
Well, the problem is there's not it's okay with email, but you receive so many emails. And if you're in the middle of a cookie booth sale, and I have my troops, I have a system set up where they have to email me or contact me if they're going to cancel, if they're going to do this, if there's a problem. So I'm getting so many emails. Sometimes I miss them, but it's not that I did it on purpose. It's just that I didn't see it. So
I get that. It, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
it
all
happens to me
understand that.
sometimes. Yeah, it happens to me. Trust me, I know. So, especially if you have multiple ones with the same title, it get confusing if you have like multiple emails on top of that, the way that they group them. So it could be confusing sometimes.
yeah, just
Um,
that's just my my comment. So
okay.
Is there any, it's hard, I mean, it's hard to communicate in any other way. It's not like we're gonna
Right.
call everybody and say, hey, guess what? There's a new booth.
Right.
Because you probably wouldn't answer the phone because you'd see it was us and be like, I don't want to talk to them. But,
Yeah.
other than just following up, I guess, if we feel like somebody maybe missed an email,
Right.
but
And
open to
normally I
suggestions.
will do that. Like I usually will communicate several times by email if I don't hear back from someone. Usually on the third time, I'm like giving a call because sometimes it can go to spam. They may not see it. Um, so I mean, that's the process that I use right now. Like I'll do 2 emails, and then if I don't hear after the second email, I usually will give a phone call. So,
We
all
do a
right.
lot of
So
group text messaging. I don't know if you have that access or ability to kind of cluster people like in certain regions together and saying like there's an open booth or something of that nature, because we do a lot of that. People seem to respond better with text messages sometimes.
I
yeah,
don't
that's what
think that we have a way to do it through text, but
I'm not sure. Well, that's something we'll probably need to ask our IT to
yeah.
see.
But that's a good point. I mean,
Yeah,
as a
a group
team, like a
text.
product program team, we text each other a lot.
Yes, we do.
So
Multiple times.
I have to say, one thing I did learn this year, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me before, but that email option in Smart Cookie, because all of a sudden you can choose like if you're specific groups, or you can just click everybody, and you can send a mass email. I know it's not going to help between everybody here, but to all of my troop leaders or troop cookie managers, they can, you can send out an email, whether it be about booths or reminders or something. That was very handy.
And did you find that those got you good responses? Like a good response rate?
At the very beginning, no, but once I started sending out, I sent an email saying, "Hey, if you see anything from no reply, that's me, letting you know about changes. So don't ignore it. Keep an eye out."
Okay.
But yeah, and so all of a sudden they started seeing that.
That's good to know.
As
well,
booth
we used
coordinators,
it for
is
something.
there any suggestion on how you think that you can communicate like new booths or like unfilled booths to troops?
The troops in our area?
Yes.
Oh, I do it by email and text message.
Oh.
I have a group chat.
See, I think that text message that must be a new wave thing now, because I'm hearing a lot of
Hey, it gets their attention because like I said, there are a lot of people that still work, and so they have all the work emails. They have, so it's
Yeah.
easier if I need to get a hold of them right away, I do a text.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, so our council cookie booths. This year we had Menlo Park Mall, that was new. We had Wendy's and we had AT&T. Did anyone use any of these booths? And if so, what was your experience? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you have any issues?
So for here at Mount Laurel, the AT&T booth, because of its location, it's really not really suitable for young girls where it is. So a lot of the parents were very hesitant on where it was because of its location itself. It's right next to the Best Buy over in, and they have a lot of, it's a high theft area, and it's usually, it seems like weekly the SWAT team is there. So the parents don't feel comfortable because they have, it's not just a pack of gum people are stealing, you know what I'm saying? So it's like really high shrink. So, and then when you walk into that Best Buy, they have armed guards there with the guns and things of that sort. So I mean, we appreciate it, but the parents just didn't feel safe to have their daughters out there selling cookies. And even the older girls, because of unfortunately, some of the clientele that goes into that particular Best Buy, especially with the older girls, rude, crude remarks. So, they just, but again, you would not know that. And that's not every AT&T location, obviously. So that's just what's happening at our particular one in Mount Laurel, unfortunately.
Anyone else?
Ours, the Pizza Hut. We appreciate the effort. We tried it then for the 24 season, but it's a delivery or takeout.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's more delivery. So the only people going in and out of there are the delivery drivers, but the rare person. And so they really, if they sold 5 boxes at any of those booths, we would have been surprised. And as far as Wendy's, it came through about a third of the way through the sale or halfway.
Yeah.
And most people don't go into Wendy's anymore. It's just the drive-through, so they would have been wasting their time. And I asked if anybody was interested, and they're like, "Nah," because it's on a high traffic area, and we were already at the intersection or the across the street at Joanne's and Sam's. So
Yeah, one of the feedbacks that I got from Wendy's was one that the campaign was too late, like it was late during a lot of the council's like cookie season. So, and then at that point, everyone's tired and they're done. So it was one. Now for Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut seems to be the same issue, I think, with every single service unit. It's express, there's really like no interest. So that we'll need to kind of discuss with Pizza Hut because Pizza Hut was actually one where I kind of like put them all in Smart Cookies. I mean, and no one kind of picked them up. So,
I guess we need to find out if any of the Pizza Huts are actual restaurants or if they're all just
I
takeout.
right.
I think they're all gone. Those old school Pizza Huts that we might have ate at as kids are gone. They're all those at Pizza Hut Express, and I agree.
Mm,
People run in, run out. If even if they're picking it up, they're just picking up their pizza and running. They're not stopping to do anything else. Yeah.
okay. That's good to know.
Pizza Hut in my town
Thank
closed
you.
completely, so.
The issue with Wendy's for us, it was late notice, and we were able to get additional Walmart slots from Old Bridge, so we
Mhm.
didn't need it at that point. If we know in the beginning of the sale next year, maybe. But the issue with the Wendy's that's in Old Bridge that we would share with them, all the other stores around are closed. So it would only be the customers that were going into Wendy's, and that's really not a high volume Wendy's location for us. So I don't know if it would be beneficial. I'll have to talk to Old Bridge about it after this.
Okay. So Wendy's and AT&T is actually a GSUSA partnership. Both of them came in late. So hopefully we did suggest that maybe next year that they will run it at the beginning and not late during the cookie season like it happened this year. So we'll
I,
see.
I would suggest if they could get maybe a McDonald's. I know our McDonald's is in a nice, safe area. It's actually in our shop, right? So it's
Mhm.
great and it's safe. And there's places where they could sell indoors, outdoors by the drive booth. I know a lot of McDonald's have been revamped to that McCafe, so that might be a place might be better than, again, the Wendy's. And Chick-fil-A for us was a little difficult because they only gave us 2 dates and we had to share it with Morristown because the manager of that location, I don't know, and they just throw you in the back by the bathroom. So
Yes, McDonald's would be good. And what about Burger King? Is that an option?
no, our Burger King at least disappeared. It went under. They put a Starbucks where the Burger King was.
Oh,
Starbucks would be wonderful, but Starbucks, they do have a problem. They're like,
yeah.
no. And my Starbucks, the manager is a former Girl Scout, and she was like, no. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
unless you actually know someone in Starbucks and they allow it. Starbucks, I mean, I've tried with corporate and they pretty much told me no.
That's a shame.
So,
What
yeah.
about Wawa?
So Wawa we did have before COVID, and then they pretty much had stopped it after that. Like
Hmm.
Okay.
Wawa is a complete no. They pretty much said to me, no.
And that's a shame because that was a great location back in the
Yeah.
day.
It's like
Yeah.
our only walkthrough location that we even possibly have, like where we get a lot of foot traffic in our town.
But that's,
And yeah,
unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's it's a corporate decision from Wawa. It's not individual stores, so there's nothing we can do to change that.
Yeah.
I
okay.
know I asked about this a couple of years ago. Because I mean we have 3 Wawas, which that was a big hit for us. Um, is it Royal Farms? I think they're
Oh,
kind
that's
of like
another one.
they're
Nope.
no, okay, never mind.
Yep, that's another one that actually told me no. I mean, usually when I am looking for partnerships, I go directly to corporate, and corporate will tell me either approve it or they will not approve it. So, um, yeah,
What about
everyone seemed to actually want Royal Farms, but that does, I don't know.
what?
Maybe things will change now. Maybe, all I can do is keep trying every year because I figure maybe there has to be at least one person, right? All these years, maybe one person may change their mind and say, okay. So,
I would also suggest you maybe try CVS because before my daughter was born, I used to live in East Windsor and girls used to sell at CVS all the time. It was great. And I
okay,
know
that's
at
a good
least we have one
suggestion.
CVS and they have so much foot traffic at a CVS.
Okay. Thanks, Crystal.
Mhm.
So sometimes when I get partnerships, they can come in after the cookie sale. So my question is, when they come in after the cookie sale, do you prefer if I just put the booths in Smart Cookies? Because normally right now I will send out a schedule and then have you put it in. What do you prefer?
You're saying after the sale begins, so
After the sale
like
begins,
Wendy's
yes,
that
because,
started up late.
yep, after the sale begins, because at this time you already have your slots already for all your other locations. Like, do you feel that it's kind of not an issue, but more work for you to put in yourselves after the cookie sale like starts?
No,
Well-
I don't have a problem putting it in
Okay.
so long as I see the email right away and then I ask my troops right away, then I don't have a problem putting it in. That's not
Okay.
the issue.
My issue, if you were just to go ahead and put them in, for example, Wendy's, it said you still have to go and talk to the location manager.
Yep.
So we would have to go over there and talk to the manager before you even could put it in.
Yes. So that one, of course, that actually came with it. We got the okay, but we still had to make sure that it was okay from the local store. So with Wendy's. So I get that. So we know that there's not a lot of troops that's taking advantage of the cookie booths. We can actually see by the total number of unfilled booths, so we just won't talk about that again. So we'll move on. So digital cookie. Were there any challenges that you had this year as opposed to last year? I mean, a lot of the issues should have been fixed, but was there any issues that you experienced?
You mean at the booth sales using the app?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
oh, good.
No?
My biggest disappointment was that I wanted one person to use PayPal because I could use it. And I didn't get that one person. But honestly, adding the Venmo like that was phenomenal because you just put in the stuff and they scanned it and everything was just embedded into it, and it was just so much easier. Even though the credit cards, you didn't have to put in the name and all that. I mean, for like the big first couple of weeks, only iPhone users, at least that was our theory, could actually scan the card until they had that update. But once they got that to work, life was quicker. But yeah, the adding Venmo was awesome.
Good.
And I know they're still trying to make some tweaks to it for next year too, and in terms of, I guess, how it shows the dollar value of the sale or something. It was one of the things they were looking into updating.
Any credit card issues? Did you find that it was much easier this year than in the past year?
Absolutely much easier this year than last year.
Good.
Good.
Good to hear that.
Good. Okay.
And did you find that that a lot of troops and girls were using digital cookie? There's definitely more that still aren't using it, but I mean, I think majority do, but there's still a lot more that we'd like to encourage.
I don't think my troops are really using the digital cookie to their max, especially at the booths, to the way they were, because the troops that are selling are the troops that have been doing it for years, and they're just doing it the way they used to do it. And they already have Venmo accounts set up personally in their own troops, so they would just like write a check to the service unit, and they weren't really, I think, using it that way. And our younger troops, apparently it was too cold for a lot of booths, so we just didn't have a lot of participation in our booths. So they didn't really maximize it the way they should.
So I know you said it was too cold. Did you find that was one of the main reasons this year?
So
The
we
weather?
don't, it's just with the two younger troop, for our youngest troop, our Daisy
Yeah.
troop. And we only have one Daisy troop because our other one, we don't have a first grade Daisy troop. So last year, and I wasn't there last year, so as this role, so I wouldn't be able to compare from years before. But yeah, it did seem like the younger girls they weren't rough and tough because I don't know. They just weren't as rough and tough this year. Or their moms weren't. I don't know.
I think it's the moms.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We did have some rough weather this winter.
We had some
It
cold
was
weather. We had
cold,
some
it
really
was
cold weather.
rainy, it was windy. So yes, the weather did have have an impact on sales this year.
Yeah, we had a lot more precipitation because personally, I'll sell in the snow, but the rain, no. And actually, my daughter started this cookie season in a cast for her broken foot,
I know.
and she had 3 booths she had scheduled for the first day. I mean, we did it all fair and square, and so her troop had the one at the diner, and halfway through that, I had to throw the shower bag on her cast, and then we went over to Joann's, which was covered. And as we're sitting there, the rain started coming down. I'm like, we're not going to Walmart. We are not. And it was the 3 to 5, so it wasn't like a big loss. And I was like, it's cold, it's wet. I'm done. You're done. I don't need you causing more harm and breaking, the rest of your foot. But yeah, a lot of precipitation. Yeah, and the stores won't let you inside. Well, one of our Heritage will because they're a bigger store, but Walmart won't let you inside, and I get that. But still, it's like,
Yeah,
they're
it's
wet.
hard. We'll work on asking for better weather next year. Everybody start
That
asking.
would be fantastic. It's easy to sell in the snow because you get those sympathy sales. It's like, oh, these poor girls, here, we'll buy a couple boxes,
Or the cold weather too. They're like, oh, I feel so bad for you. But when it's raining,
Yeah.
They just want to get their stuff to the car, load it up, and I don't blame them.
No, we understand that.
Yeah, just okay. Let's go next one. All right.
Yeah.
So we are up to the sneak peek.
I know,
You are the
we should
lucky
replay
ones
this.
tonight because you get to see exactly what the new mascot is going to be for next year. And it is the black-footed ferret. Is it a he or a she?
They're
Do we
she,
know?
and their
Yes.
names are Shirley and Dolly.
Ah, that's right. Shirley and Dolly. Brave, fierce, and fun.
And Anne, you said the name Shirley was tied to what, Wyoming?
Yeah, the Shirley comes from it's Shirley Valley, Wyoming. It's or Montana, I think it's Wyoming, that has the most. It's got the biggest population of black-footed ferrets in North America. So that's where the name Shirley came from, and Dolly, I'm not real sure where that came from, but I think it's a great name for the black-footed ferret. So, and you don't see a lot of, this is just one iteration of the logo, but obviously ABC will have all the logos and stuff up, in the later summer, like we always do. We'll make sure that starts getting added, to our resources so that folks can start to see the different clip art.
Thank you.
All right, and that is the end of our presentation. Is there any other questions or comments that anyone would like to say before we end for tonight?
And if you think of anything else also after the fact,
Yeah, you can just
down the
email
road, let
us.
us know. And I'll get everything sent out by the beginning of next week. I'm trying to remember what day today was. If I don't get them out tomorrow, I'll get them out to you at the beginning.
So we know it was a small group tonight, so we thank you for actually coming on and being here. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. So thank you all. And if you have any other questions, you can email us.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Have
So
a
much
good night,
for
everybody.
tonight,
You're welcome.
everybody. And thanks for all your hard work during the cookie season.
Yes.
Stop recording. Oh, there it is.